Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Craig, and I'm the President and CEO of the Monterey County Business Council. Monterey County Business Council is a membership-based organization that works together with private business, the public sector, and nonprofit organizations. We're always looking to expand our network, so if you think we're doing good work here, we'd love to have you as a member. Our membership applications are online at www.mcbc.biz. We are in our 7th week of continuing our commitment to communication with you. When you registered, you gave us your email address. We will have more of these free webinars over the next couple of months, and we will let you know of upcoming discussions on small business opportunities, such as this one. I do want to thank our partners, the Small Business Development Center, the City of Salinas, and the County of Monterey. Additionally, I have to give a shout out to Luis Alvarez of Alvarez Technology Group. He's the guy behind the curtain, and the team over there is producing our webinar today. I do want to encourage you to ask as many questions as you would like. There's a chat feature on the right of your screen where you can ask those questions. We are also recording this webinar, and we'll send you a link with the recording so you can review today's class. We will also send out the contact information for our speakers today. Let's go on to our agenda. So today we have a California's business checklists with Cindy Merzon, the director of CalCoastal Small Business Development Center. There's a roadmap in place that explains what different businesses need to do in order to successfully reopen. And then we're going to talk to some industry experts. We'll have Paul Farmer, small business, talking about small business and reopening small business. He is the president and CEO of the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce. And with us for hospitality is Rick Aldinger, the general manager of Big Sur River Inn, and also an active participant with the Monterey County Hospitality Association. And lastly, we're going to talk to Norm Groot, the executive director for the Monterey County Farm Bureau. He's going to be speaking about the agricultural industry and what they've been doing during this time. And then we'll end with questions. So with that, I'd like to introduce Cindy Merzon, the director of CalCoastal Small Business Development Center, to go over the roadmap. Cindy?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. The purpose of today's series of presentations is to provide you with information to help you make decisions about how and when you might want to reopen your business. It's to put you in control as much as possible. The CalCoastal Small Business Development Center, also known as the SBDC, is here to help you at no cost to you with your reopening plan if you need it. So all you would need to do if you want our help is to register for services by visiting our website, www.calcoastalsbdc.com, and click on the Get Started or Request Assistance button on the COVID-19 page. I'll show you quickly what that looks like. So this is what the page looks like. We have several options. The calendar provides information on workshops and webinars that are coming up. The COVID-19 resources gives you a list of links, federal, state, and local links that are source links that change as information changes, which seems to be happening on a pretty regular basis. And you can see shortly right below the blue banner, there's a red Request Assistance button. You would click on that. And after you register by following the directions from that button, you will get an email with appointment time choices for you to make so that you could set an appointment to meet with an expert consultant. So we can help you if you need help. You don't have to have it if you don't want that help. Okay, so we recognize that there are different thoughts out there about whether or not our economy should reopen right now. And as one of our esteemed speakers mentioned yesterday, planning and doing are two different things. Thanks, Paul. And today is about planning. On May 7th, the governor released a new roadmap to recovery as part of the state's plan to move into stage 2 of California's state order. My role today is to share the resources that the state provided. And I'm going to stop sharing and share with you a new page. Because I want to show you what those resources are, how you can access them, and what's available. So I'm going to, okay. There we go. So you should see a new page that's covid19.ca.gov/industry-guidance. So this is part of the state's plan to move into stage 2 of the California state order. So as I said, today my role is to just provide the information to you, let you know where the resources are and how you might access those resources. So interesting part in this particular page, you'll see that says below is statewide guidance, but the guidance is for the state at large. Some counties have been approved to have a variance from that guidance. So if you want to click on that, and I'm not going to take the time to do it, but you could click on the county guidance button and find that there are some nearby counties that have qualified for variance, including San Benito County, and that allows them to have access to additional opening opportunities that other counties don't have yet. Essentially what it's saying that when you are preparing to open your business, that there are some things that every business needs to do. So every business needs to, before opening, perform a detailed risk assessment, implement a site-specific protection plan, train employees on how to limit the spread of COVID-19, including how to screen themselves for symptoms and stay home if they have them, implement individual control measures and screenings, implement disinfecting protocols, and implement physical distancing guidelines. So everybody needs to do that regardless of what industry you're in. And so really what this is about making sure, one, that your business will be safe and trying to reduce the liabilities for your business should somebody feel that you put them in harm's way if they came to your place of business. Two, to protect your employees and hopefully ensure that they don't become ill. And three, to protect your customers, as well as help them feel comfortable and safe coming back to your business. And so part of this is about making sure that they are safe, and the other is making sure that they feel comfortable that they'll be safe when they come, so that they'll come back. Just to share a quick aside, is I did a little poll and discovered that there are lots of people that I know who aren't very comfortable going back out into business right now, and I was surprised by that. And so there are people that won't even share that with you, that they're not comfortable, and there are some that are comfortable. And so there's a very big divide out there, and so you need to know who your customers are and who's willing to come back. So the industry guides are here. If you scroll down through the page, there's a guide for agriculture and livestock, one for auto dealership, childcare, communications infrastructure, construction, et cetera, et cetera. You can see that there are lots of different ones. I'm going to just go quickly to, I'll do the construction one for you, so just see the details that are in there. So they give you guidance to create a safer environment for workers. So basically what they're suggesting is that you review the guidance, you prepare your plan, not their plan, your plan, and then once you've implemented your plan, you post the checklist for the construction industry in your workplace to show your customers and your employees that you've reduced the risk and you're open for business. So this is a sample of what one of those checklists looks like. Each one for each industry looks kind of like this, but it basically says that as of this date, these are the things that I've done. So you will check off all of the things that you've done to make that place a safe place for employees and for customers. So you can go through all of them if you would like, but I'm gonna hand this over to our industry experts now to talk about what they are recommending.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Cindy. I appreciate your time and your expertise. We will also have these slide decks available so that you're able to see what, when we send it out on Monday, so that you can review both the webinar and the information that's shared today. Up next, Paul Farmer, the President and CEO of the Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, to talk a little bit about what small business is doing and what we're working on for the Monterey County effort to get back up and running with our economy. Paul?
All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I have to say, Kimberly and Cindy are clearly very well versed in leading Zoom meetings. I, on the other hand, put a shirt on for you guys today. So Let's all be appreciative of that. My face is going to disappear. I put together just a couple of quick slides to talk to you about what the Monterey County Business Associations and others have been working on together to help provide plans for us to get businesses back reopened. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now. You guys are the first people who get to see this brand new logo for the Monterey County Business Coalition, which was hatched just last night. I said to my friend Frank Geisler, who is running the CEO of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber, he and I, the CEO of the Salinas Valley Chamber, are really taking the leadership of the Monterey County Business Coalition. I'll talk to you about which groups are in that coalition and what we've been doing. So I come to you speaking not just as the CEO of the Salinas Valley Chamber, but as one of the leaders of the Monterey County Business Coalition. So here is what we're going to talk about today as I advance to the next slide here. I'm going to talk about our strategy to help not just small businesses, but all businesses in Monterey County. I'll tell you about what steps we've gone through initially, how we were working to understand and share information regarding aid and loan programs, and then what we did to build the Monterey County Business Coalition. I'll share who the founders are and what we're doing to expand that coalition. I'll tell you some specific actions that we've taken so far and where we are now, specifically with the formation of the Monterey County Ad Hoc Committees to make industry sector plans for reopening when the time is right. And then finally, I'll tell you about an immediate need that we have right now. It's one of the precursors required by the state for counties to be able to reopen. So I'll talk to you about that. It's regarding getting everybody that we can tested for COVID-19 for free. So that's what I'll talk about. First, the Monterey County Business Coalition started out with all of the chambers working together. Now, a number of us have lunch every other month to maintain contact with each other, to talk about areas of mutual interest. And it's nice that we have all those very strong relationships among all of the chambers in the county. Because when this stuff came up, we noticed that there were different industries that were working on plans that were specific to agriculture in the beginning, because we needed to have food and they needed to be able to work. Then there was a plan coming about for construction. We heard about plans for hospitality, and what we thought was going to be happening was a lot of fragmentation from many different industry sectors that wanted to say, hey, what about us? We need to come up with a plan. Those plans were being submitted to the county and to Dr. Moreno, who is the county health officer, ultimately the person who decides what are the rules for businesses to be reopening. We recognized that rather than have myriad different plans for specific industries, it would be more effective if we all worked together and came up with an overall plan with specific parts that addressed the particular needs of different sectors. So it started with chambers of commerce. There's a bunch of signatures there. And then we also brought into the coalition the Monterey County Hospitality Association, which had been working on developing their own plan to open up hospitality. The Monterey County Convention and Visitors Bureau, which has also worked on a plan to market our area so that we can start having tourist dollars come back in again. We also reached out to the County of Monterey, and we have representation on the coalition from the Chief of Staff of Supervisor Mary Adams. So that's our coalition currently. Those are the founders. And then we're working to expand that coalition to reach out to other associations within the county to say, here's what's going on. We want to make sure that we're listening to your voice and that you're also a part of this. So that's what we're doing. The more of us that are there at the table, the stronger our voice. And we're just here to try to help the county make the decisions that can reopen business when the time is right. And we have to just recognize that it is very much a balancing act. We are not out there picketing saying, open everything up today. We recognize the difficulty if we don't reopen with the proper protocols and measures in place, what the ramifications of that could be. But what we are saying is now is the time we need to have everything planned. We need to also look at what's going on with Governor Newsom and the state, different phases. Where are we? How do we get to the next phase? What are those plans that each different industry can open up? So that's the coalition that we put together and continue to work on. First thing we did was we sent a letter to the county supervisors and to Dr. Moreno. This was a couple of weeks ago. And the letter basically said, we're working together. We have been working with different industries, coming up with specific plans, and we want to work with the county to help you build those plans. So last Friday, we've been moving very quickly with things. Last Friday, we sent out to the county, and we've also distributed this to our different members. I'll tell you where you can see this document, but we put together a draft plan, emphasis on draft, to present to the Monterey County Board of Supervisors to say, we've been working on these things, we've been looking at them. Here's a general plan that may be useful for the county. So we submitted that to them last Friday, May 8th. It's available in a few places. One of them is on the Salinas Valley Chamber website at salinaschamber.com. It's on our homepage. There's a big button there that you can click that says, it says Coalition Plan for Restoring Commerce. So it's about a 10-page plan if you want to see that. But the real importance of that plan, it's easy to pick things apart and say, what about this, what about that? The real importance of that plan, in my mind, was to tell the county, we're here, we're serious, we understand that we need to move forward with developing these plans, and we're here to help. So we sent that out last Friday. And we have to be mindful of what's going on with different specific industries. We had a meeting of our coalition last Wednesday. On Thursday, the Monterey County Hospitality Association, which is part of our coalition, they decided that they wanted to put forward their plan that's hospitality specific to the supervisors. So they did that on Thursday of last week. We're taking the concepts that they're putting forth and bringing it into our overall plan. So we're definitely supportive of what they're doing and the work they've put into that. At the same time that we're working on things, we have to understand, what is the county's plan? What are they doing to help prepare businesses for opening? And what the county did was last Friday, May 8th, they released a press release that's on their website. They essentially said, we're going to form ad hoc committees with 2 county supervisors on each of those committees, and they will pull in industry professionals, local industry professionals, to help build those plans. And this next slide shows you what are those county ad hoc committees. There are 5 of them. So agriculture was, of course, the first one to have a plan to be open and working with safety protocols in place. Supervisor Luis Alejo and Supervisor Chris Lopez are leading that ad hoc committee. We're not expecting for the coalition to, for lack of a better term, butt our heads in if things are going along fine. So we're in conversations with different agriculture entities, and we expect that the ad hoc committee is going to move forward with the players who have already been working on developing those plans. But we want to make sure that we're there in case the county or the industry needs the coalition. So that's the first ad hoc committee. The second one is related to construction. Supervisor John Phillips and Supervisor Chris Lopez will be leading that committee. Construction was the second major industry in Monterey County to be able to open up. So they already have plans in place. So they're a bit down the road on that one. So good. The next ad hoc committee is hospitality, Supervisor Mary Adams and Supervisor John Phillips. So that one is one of our top pillar industries in Monterey County, as we all know, and they are not in the initial phase of reopening. So they really need to have their plan together so that all of the hotels, and not just those, but also restaurants and attractions, can reopen when the time is right. So my friend at the Monterey County Hospitality Association, Jerome Gares, is helping drive from the coalition's perspective the hospitality ad hoc with those supervisors. The fourth ad hoc committee is non-hospital medical and personal services, so we can all get our hair cut when the time is right. That's Supervisor Parker and Supervisor Adams. And again, we're reaching out to them saying, what supervisors, what is your vision for these committees? How many people do you want to have on them? What types of industries? Let the chambers and our coalition partners help you in reaching out to those people, because we know the business people and whatnot. The last ad hoc committee is religious organizations, and that's Supervisor Chris Lopez and Supervisor Alejo. We're basically staying away from that one for now. We've heard that they've already been reaching out to institutions of faith and that they should be good. But again, because the county said these are the 5 ad hoc committees we're creating, we want to make sure that we're helping support the county as best we can. I told you that as I start to come toward the end of the presentation, that the county is also using the coalition as a means to get information out to our residents. And something that we just received yesterday and started pushing out through all of the coalition's respective members is the need for the community to get COVID-19 testing. Now, we weren't promoting that last week for everybody to get testing, right? But what happens is, one of the requirements from the state in order for a county to be able to reopen is they need to have widespread testing. You have to have certain metrics of people who have gotten tested. So we're not just looking at the high risk populations now. What we now need is everybody's help to get tested so that we can have enough people tested to meet that requirement in the state's plans, right? So a couple of details about this. A person get tested without having any symptoms, and the state, for those without insurance, the state will cover the full cost of testing. So there's no out-of-pocket costs for anyone receiving the service. And just very quickly, I will mention to you, there's a flyer here on my presentation. You'll also be able to see that on chamber websites. We've been sending it out to our members. We'll put it on the Salinas Valley Chamber website later today. But let me read for you where the community testing sites are in case you can't see it on the slide. Alisal High School in Salinas, Tuesday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'll give you my contact info at the end as well, in case you want me to just email this directly to you. The next community testing site is the Greenfield Branch Library in Greenfield. That's Tuesday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ramsey Park Family Center in Watsonville is open Wednesday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And in Hollister, the Veterans Memorial Building is open Sunday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I have heard from somebody who's on this call that it was not super easy to get the appointment online. There is a URL where people can sign up to get the testing. It is appointment only, so you need to have an appointment if you want to get the testing done. So we hope that this is one way that the community can help Monterey County be able to reopen when the time is right. This is my last slide. I just want to remind you that I'm speaking on behalf of the entire coalition. My good friend Frank Geisler, who is the CEO of the Monterey Peninsula Chamber, and I am the CEO of the Salinas Valley Chamber. And with that, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate your time and your efforts. I know that it's a widespread effort to ensure that everybody is on the same page and distributing the same amount of information. The thing that really, the major takeaway on this is if you own a business but you do not have symptoms of COVID, it is still important to go get tested. We need mass testing completed in order to reach phase 2 to be able to reopen business. So thanks very much for your presentation. And we are going to actually move on to hospitality. The two major industries in Monterey County are obviously agriculture and hospitality. Hospitality has been devastated by this pandemic. And so here to speak about what hospitality has been working on is Rick Aldinger, the general manager of Big Sur River Inn. And he's also incredibly active with the Monterey County Hospitality Association. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks a lot, Kimberly. Happy to be here this morning. And I think that Cindy and Paul both set this up very well. I'll reiterate some of the information that they've given already. Early on, Janine Chickarat from the Portola Hotel and myself are co-chairs of the Monterey County Hospitality Association Government Affairs Committee. We focus on advocacy issues with government elected officials. And early on, we realized there might be an elevated need for that advocacy and communication and collaboration with our elected officials. And so we formed at that point a specific task force to deal with COVID-19 related issues and government regulations. And we realized as information started to trickle down from Sacramento and into and then through the county, through our supervisors, that Dr. Marino and his staff and the Board of Supervisors had a Herculean task given the variety of economic interests in a very large county in California to try to figure out, how do we best balance how all of these different economic sectors in the county are allowed to open. And so, like Paul spoke, we realized that it might be very helpful for them if we could build a draft set of protocols that we felt protected all interested parties, in particular hospitality workers, our staff, and certainly our guests, and as well the residents of Monterey County and the public. And so Janine Chickarat kind of spearheaded that effort to start building these draft protocols, and she received input from a wide variety of stakeholders in the county, in the state, nationally, corporate resources, everywhere she could, in starting to put together a set of protocols that would allow us to open, meeting the criteria that was handed down to us from the state and the county, along with what might work best to get our economy back up and running as quickly and effectively as possible. We met with county supervisors very early in that process, and they suggested very strongly that we enlist the help of the medical community in developing these protocols, so that there was some credibility to the protocols, and that we had the oversight of the medical community. And we were very fortunate to be able to have Dr. Geraldine Kaplan, a retired epidemiologist from CHOMP, who had been called back to CHOMP during this crisis to consult with them. And she was happy, willing to help us out and join forces with us to go over our protocols with us, review them, make sure that what we came up with was medically sound and would accomplish the protection of safety and health for the public. And so after many hours of hard work, we were able to submit a final draft, as Paul spoke, certainly a draft of our protocols to the supervisors last week. And they were received very positively from the supervisors, and we will continue to stay in communication with them on how those protocols will ultimately be presented to Dr. Marino, and when the time is right that those will get implemented, and we'll be able to start opening our doors again to our guests. And I want to stress, and Paul did this too, the draft nature of the protocols. In my mind, there will never be a final draft of the protocols. This is a living document, and it's going to evolve over time as we in the industry learn of better best practices and also as the regulatory requirements from the state and the county might change and evolve over time. And so we will stay engaged in that process of refining and evolving that document to make sure that it's always accomplishing the goals that we set out to accomplish with that to the best of our ability. We have additionally implemented and publicized from the state. The California Hotel and Lodging Association has published a self-certification program for the lodging industry, and this is really a good faith gesture on the part of properties where we agree to abide by a set of guidelines, principles, best practices, as reflected in our protocols, that we are a safe place to lodge, to stay overnight. That we'll have a training component for our staff that shows that we've put forth the effort to make sure that we are providing a safe environment for our staff and certainly for our guests. And that's a great program. We encourage all lodging properties to sign on to that program and make sure that your frontline employees and everyone at your establishment is operating in the safest way possible for the good of each other and certainly for our guests and the public. Additionally, we've had MCHA has had a relationship with CSUMB and Dr. John Avella. And John Avella is currently developing a local education and certification program for all of hospitality, not just the lodging. And we think that's something, again, that everyone should be involved in, and we're encouraging that. That should be up and running soon. Something that I like about Dr. Avella's program is, unlike the state, the CH and LA program, that's a set of documents that we are allowed to learn and self-certify. Dr. Avella's program will do something very similar, but he is also including a training component to his program that I think is going to be really helpful for especially smaller properties that don't have corporate backing, so that everyone in the hospitality industry has the ability to train their staff and make sure that we're all doing this in the way that is best for everyone. That's where we're at with this today. Again, it's an evolving process, and we will stay engaged with everyone involved to make sure that we all move forward in the most positive way possible. And again, thanks, Kimberly, for allowing us to have a few minutes with you today.
Thanks so much, Rick. Really appreciate your time. One thing I think that we should really emphasize is that hotel and lodging, I believe, is in phase 3 of the reopening of business. So we have to get through phase 2. We're in the beginning stages of phase 1. We have to clear phase 2 in order to get to be able to successfully open up hotels and motels in this area in phase 3. So it's really important to make sure that we are following those guidelines and ensuring that obviously health and safety is the one issue, but that we are moving towards quickly getting through those phases to ensure that we can get, one of our top 2 industries back up and running as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. So thank you very much. Go on.
Sure, and I just want to add one thing, Kimberly, if I may. And Paul spoke about the importance of testing now, and it is one of the criteria for moving through the phases. And maybe Paul, you mentioned this, and I might have missed it, but it's my understanding that there's going to be a drive-through testing site set up at Monterey Peninsula College. I believe that has been confirmed, and I can't say that for sure, but I think it's been confirmed for Monday, 9 to 4. It'll be a drive-through swab test And again, your personal health insurance will cover that, and if you don't have insurance, it will be paid for by the state. So that's another opportunity without an appointment to be able to get tested, and certainly we want everyone who has the opportunity to be tested. It was previously only allowed for those who were symptomatic, and now that's been opened up for everyone, and it's a really important part of moving through the phases. So certainly highly encouraged.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. I actually sent a message over to Supervisor Adams' office. She responded that the Monterey Peninsula College site starts as a pilot for the first responders and essential workers next week. The week after, it'll be open to anyone. It's a partnership with Planned Parenthood, and specific details will be available starting next Wednesday for the general public.
Thank you. Thanks for the update.
Of course. Next up, oh yes, Paul.
Oh, Kimberly, I just want to mention I'm watching the web chat and answering to some people's questions. Some are asking for the flyer that I mentioned, so I'll make sure you have it, and maybe you can send it out to participants on the call so they have the details on that flyer.
Sure, that's fine. We can certainly send that out with the webinar link.
All right, thank you. Sorry.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Norm Groot, the Executive Director of Farm Bureau for Monterey County. Obviously, agriculture has been affected significantly with the amount of cases that we have had here in Monterey County, but there's been incredible proactivity on the side of ag companies. And so, Norm, I'd love for you to speak a little bit about what agriculture is doing during this time. Welcome, Norm.
So yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity, Kimberly, to address what we've been doing in agriculture. And I'm going to kind of take us back to the beginning of all of this and walk through the process of where we're at right now and what we need to do to continue moving forward. So back in March, in the week of the 16th, when the shelter-in-place order was issued during that week, we realized early on that agriculture, first of all, was going to be an essential business. And second, we had to figure out how to keep our workforce healthy and safe. And so that meant we had to really look at our processes. As you probably are all aware, our harvest crews work shoulder to shoulder when they're harvesting lettuce or celery or broccoli or whatever the case may be. And we have a number of living situations where there's a number of people living in close proximity, and transportation issues where people are riding on buses to work sites on a daily basis. So we realized early on that we were going to have some significant challenges with the social distancing part of it, as well as the communication of the disease itself through contact in a number of different situations, including the home life. So we came together really fast the week of March 16th and developed a set of criteria. And we want to thank Supervisor Alejo and Supervisor Lopez, as well as the County Council, the Ag Commissioner, and the Health Office, as well as all the leaders of the local ag associations. That includes not only Farm Bureau, but the Grower Shipper Association, the Vintners and Growers Association, the Coastal Growers Association, and the California Strawberry Commission. And we had a number of quick phone calls, and this was actually kind of before Zoom, to get together and go over some language and come up with the first ever in the state advisory for ag workers to keep them safe and working in their workplaces. And the intent of this was really to provide information both to the employers as well as the employees. So we have sections on this particular document for employee hygiene, instances of what they need to do when they go home from work so that they don't contaminate people that they're living with or their families if they have been exposed. Washing hands, making sure that sanitation is properly done in their households too. So there was a big education part for the employee related to their hygiene, not only when they're on the job, but when they're off the job also. We also have a large section detailing what to do about ill employees and looking for those signs of infection or illness when they show up for work each day, and instructions on what to do as an employer as well as an employee if someone is suspected of coming down with something. And we've gotten a lot of good advice from the health officials and others in the community. The clinicians, the hospitals have all given us some really good guidance on how to train field foremen to start looking for some of these things, and also to start taking some temperatures if they need to. And a lot of companies are now taking temperatures when the employees are reporting for work each day. And that was a big step to moving forward with this process. And it was a big training session for the foreman in the field also. We went through a whole process of determining a section on what to do in the workplace, how to keep spaces clean, what to do in break rooms, how to distance people, those types of situations. And then we have a section on training and what to do in changing the processes so that they fit within the parameters of what the pandemic is currently forcing on the workforce, as well as the employers themselves. We also addressed transportation, which is really, if you think of all the buses that we have that transport farm workers from field to field, how do we social distance? How do we make sure that a cohort sticks together in case someone is either diagnosed or exposed, that we know who's sitting next to who or sitting close proximity? And so we suggested strongly that they start assigning seats on buses so that people know who they're sitting next to and can continue in that same cohort throughout their weekly, monthly process of work. And finally, we had to address housing. We have a lot of temporary workers who come into our area from other areas, particularly the desert, when we're producing in the winter and the early spring months. And those employees are housed in a number of different situations, including motels here in Salinas and King City, and other situations that are actually built by the employers themselves, brand new facilities such as Spreckles Crossing. And so we had to devise how we were going to do social distancing in those situations, and challenges as simple as how do you deal with bunk beds and the exposure risk, because that's not really technically 6 feet apart when you look at a bunk bed. So we have a lot of guidance in this document. And then the last page is a whole bunch of resources that employers could use with links to websites, available resources locally for medical advice as well as medical facilities, and also nurses who are coming out and training crews from the hospitals on what they need to do, not only to ensure the workplace safety, but also in their homes. So this process has evolved over the last 8 weeks. We've issued 6 different versions of this document. We're working on number 7, which will probably be issued early next week. And I want to say, a lot of what we're doing was already in place because of food safety and workplace safety measures that were already required either through the Leafy Greens marketing agreement or by the state in CalOSHA requirements. And so we had to do a lot of enhancement beyond that, obviously. But we're very lucky that we could start off with, particularly in the food safety area, that we have a lot of measures in place, that people are already doing a lot of hygiene, that they're already doing a lot of things to ensure that not only their food supply stays safe, but additionally they themselves stay safe. So where are we going from this at this point? We had our first meeting with the Ad Hoc Committee for Agriculture that included Supervisors Alejo and Lopez. We met last week for the first time and identified areas that we really need to address in order to move to phase 2 and phase 3 here. Those involve things like opening up tasting rooms and what we're going to do in those situations. How do we further enhance safety at farmers markets, which are still currently open? We are also going to be working with the breweries who do not have restaurant or food services and making sure that they're following the same guidelines as maybe the tasting rooms. And we're going to develop a set of written protocols for all of these different areas. And as was mentioned earlier, everyone has to come up with a workplace plan that is specific to those workplaces. And the challenge for fields where you have a lot of workers in open areas and a lot of different constraints for that, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of employers to come up with these individual plans. So we'll have to see how this all fits together. It's a giant puzzle, and we'll figure out. We're going to continue working on employee housing. We have specifics in place right now to isolate workers that are either diagnosed or exposed, whether they're domestic or temporary workers in our area. and we have a system in place that seems to be working pretty well. So we have available beds for them to do that if they are diagnosed or exposed. And we're also looking at what we need to do to reflect ag tourism. We have a lot of tourists who come here who do the wine trail and do other situations. We have third-party vendors that offer tours of the Salinas Valley, and how are we going to deal with that moving forward? Farms are going to be very restrictive about visitation going forward and keeping their workers safe. So we have to develop a plan for that also. We are highlighting the testing sites and making sure that we get as many ag workers tested as possible. And that's going out to all our collective memberships of the ag associations this week. And we're going to be pushing that highly next week. Also, the Greenfield site will really help in the Salinas Valley as far as being more centrally located rather than everyone traveling to Salinas. And I know that doesn't help you on the peninsula, but it sounds like maybe that's coming to you at some point in time also. We also have arranged for childcare if it's needed through the United Way and other services that are now available. And I do understand that farm workers are taking advantage of some of those childcare situations. And lastly, I wanted to mention that we this week completed distributing 750,000 disposable masks to agricultural workers here in Monterey County. We made an appeal to the governor that we had a critical shortage of masks here based on the number of employees that we have, not only domestic, but temporary workers coming into our place. And the governor was kind enough to ship us 750,000 masks, and we have now distributed those to the most part to small farms that have not been able to get those supplies on their own due to various different constraints. So we're very proud of where we're at, what we're doing, but we obviously have a whole lot more that we need to accomplish in the next weeks in order to make sure that we're there for phase 2 and phase 3 as those come across. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it, Kimberly, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that may come up.
Thanks so much for your time, Norm. I appreciate it. We will go ahead and move on to our question and answer section of today. We do have a couple in chat and a couple of direct Q&A. Ed Smith from Monterey asks, how can we advocate to get a peninsula testing site making appointments? This is key. Many people work while sheltering and can't wait in line for hours in childcare. Appointments are the appropriate method. We can only have very long lines at MPC, which may be what happens with food banks. So do we have any directive or any encouragement from either supervisors or from the health department in terms of expanding out the amount of testing sites? Paul, do you know?
So I responded to Ed's chat privately. So I agree with this point, and some others are making that as well. We need to have testing available on the peninsula as well. The flyer that we received yesterday was just yesterday. So certainly they need to have a plan for the peninsula as well. And the chambers will be reaching out to the supervisors to find out about that, and then we'll help disseminate the information. I'm sure, of course, they have to have more testing there. So we'll find out when it is, and we'll do our best to get that information out to the community.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Norm, there's a question about exposed or infected workers. Where are those beds and who is administering those spaces?
Sorry, I was on mute and I was actually typing an answer to that. The ag associations, primarily Grower Shipper Association, working with a number of ag employers, have contracted for vacant motel rooms in the Salinas Valley area, and those are available on call and as needed. We employed all the wraparound services needed, whether it was food, medical services, trash, those types of things. And so it seems to be functioning pretty well. And employers know that if they have a situation where someone is either diagnosed or exposed and needs to be isolated, they have a way of contacting the motel and getting a room reserved and getting it set up rather quickly.
Great, thank you. I actually have a secondary question I think that may be for you. When will the new plan become available for tasting room organizations?
Monterey County Vintners and Growers Association is working with their tasting rooms to develop a plan. They have a number of specifics that I think they're going to propose, and since it's not finalized, I don't want to disclose those completely yet, not speaking out of turn, but that is something that they are taking charge of in conjunction with the other ag associations that are working on our advisory document. And we will make sure that those are made public as soon as possible. I think that's pretty close at this point. And yeah, tasting rooms are a high priority at this point, particularly the ones where people are walking in, say, Carmel, and you can't necessarily have an appointment to visit a tasting room in that kind of situation. So we have to really think this through and really decide how we're going to socially distance and also serve the tastings in a manner in which it keeps not only the servers safe, but also the visitors.
Great, thank you. I believe this next question should be for Cindy. Cindy, there's a question regarding the beauty industry. We've had quite a few people who have tuned into our webinars. They said, who is representing the beauty industry? We have safety procedures from the State Board of California. Who do we contact to show our procedures that we follow? And I think you're on mute.
I am, and I'm not showing. So there actually, the question may be a combination for Paul or I. One is anybody in our county working on guidelines for that particular industry, and that I would have Paul answer. But the other is if you're part of a business that has state licensing requirements, then you should be in touch with that organization that licenses you. So at the state level, to make sure that you're meeting whatever requirements they've set for you to maintain your license and reopen your business. I will say that I've seen a number of questions in the chat box mentioning that their business is not mentioned in any of those industry guides. So there is not an industry guide that covers every business that's out there. And I think what you're seeing is the state is providing information as it gets developed. And so I don't recall there being a personal services one, but let me go back and look real quick. There is not. So there is not yet a personal services guide that the state has done. That doesn't mean they may not come out with one. So I would encourage people, if yours is not listed there, check back frequently to see if they've added new guides, because everything continues to change pretty regularly from the state and the federal government.
Thank you, Cindy. Paul, do you want to add to that? In terms of locally, if we have anybody working on personal services here?
Paul, you're muted. Paul.
Paul, you're muted.
Rookie move. Sorry about that. I've been good at muting myself, but not good at unmuting. So I was starting to say that no, we don't have the guidelines that the coalition has been working on have been general and not specific to any industry. However, a number of people on this call have been asking about their particular industry and where are they. And I've been linking people to an article. It's pretty easy to find. If you go online, there's a CNN article. I just went to Google and typed in Governor Newsom's phased reopening plan, and you can very quickly have an easy to digest article that explains where things are, and then it links over to some of the things on the state website so you can identify what the status is for your own industry. And I want to point out as well that the Monterey County Business Coalition, we're moving very fast. Our meeting was late Wednesday afternoon. We created a logo yesterday, and we're currently working on a website which will link all over. I don't want to give it to you yet because we're working on it today, but we're going to make one place where it's easy for businesses to find the information they need. Right now, a lot of that information is on the county website and on the state website. However, let's be real, good luck finding it. Sometimes there's so much stuff there, it's hard to figure it out. So part of what the chambers and the business coalition is doing at this time is to try to help you all make sense of that. So stay tuned. By early next week, we'll have a coalition website where we'll have different documents that make it easy for people to understand.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Now I'll mute myself again.
I do want to acknowledge there was one question about posting the link with those respective industries that Cindy showed. When we send that email on Monday, we will have that link attached to the email. So if you've registered for this webinar, you'll have not only the webinar recording, but you'll also have the link and the PowerPoint slides. I just want to make that clear. I also wanted to, yes, ma'am.
I also just posted the link in that question in the chat box. So if people are following that, the link is there as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate it. I do want to ask a question. Rick Aldinger with Monterey County Hospitality Association had to jump off the call, but I'm wondering if maybe Paul or even Norm might be able to answer it. The question is, as far as restaurants are concerned, both within hotels, on property, or standalone, are they considered phase 3 along with hotels, motels, or are they phase 2? And what does that timeline look like?
So Cindy or Norm, do you know? I'm not sure where restaurants, whether they're 2 or 3. I would suspect they're 3, but do either of you happen to know?
I'm looking because there is restaurant guidance. It says dine-in restaurants are not permitted to open statewide yet, unless they're in a county that has met the county specific release. Let me see what it says here. There is a guidance document for dine-in restaurants so that they can prepare, but it's not in the main list that I shared with everyone. So I will, I'll post that. I'm thinking it is stage 3.
One of our, I haven't verified this, but one of our listeners said they're in phase 2 once there's a county variance. So I'm not sure.
That's the variance I'm just talking about. The page I'm looking at. If the county, so for example, San Benito County has met the variance requirements, and that's what the testing requirements that you've been talking about as part of the variance application process. So if you're in a county that has met the variance requirements, there is a dine-in restaurant guide on the state website, and I'll drop that link as well. It's covid19.ca.gov/roadmap-counties. And I'll also drop that in the chat box. And you can see dine-in restaurants and shopping centers fall in that phase 2 if your county's met the release.
And Paul, there is a request for you to drop the testing flyer inside of chat, if that's a possibility, just so that people can take a look and make a quick note of it. I don't know.
Test my skills and abilities. I'll do my best. If I'm not able to do that, I'll send it to Kimberly so that she can distribute it to you all, but I'll try to do that.
Excellent. I mean, if you can figure out the mute button, I figured you could figure out.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, just as a wrap up, we are nearing our 1 hour mark. I do want to acknowledge and thank our speakers, Cindy Merzon, the Director of CalCoastal Small Business Development Center, Paul Farmer, the President and CEO of the the Salinas Valley.
Monterey Valley, yes. Okay, now I get to make fun of you.
You're one big coalition. It shouldn't matter.
Write down that lettuce curtain.
The Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, Rick Aldinger, the General Manager of the Big Sur River Inn and active with the Monterey County Hospitality Association, and of course, Norm Groot, the Executive Director of the Monterey County Farm Bureau. Thank you all for being here today. And lastly, I do want to thank our partners, the Small Business Development Center, the City of Salinas, and the County of Monterey, as well as Alvarez Technology Group. He's doing a great job behind the scenes. And I wanted to also, just as a final note, remind you that we are recording this webinar, and we'll send you a link with the recording so you can review today's class. We'll also send out the contact information for the speakers today, as well as any additional information. We recognize that you are super busy, usually on Fridays, and wanted to thank you for your time today. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.